Going through track revision cycles and line centers, high interference and position line centers. There's so many lines of A track. An A track line provision lines is set position notes. Here you go. Setting travelers in position location system is all over the calculations. How to modify your line screen is understanding your atmospheres, hemispheres, stratospheres, files, or bringing in the position track calculation line system. But there's an A track provision, which is above line connections, right? That's how you correlate your holographic settings of streams, direct lines, communication line systems. Breaking down the A's comes in position location lines, your alphabetical lines of calculation to its correlation position of panels that operates your location settings of coloration. In that position location, when you come into block centers. So it's about breaking things down, understanding how to see yourself through A-line screens or anything through zeros and ones and track locations. Getting into the measures, getting into the scales, getting into the balance. It's about you identifying yourself from a holographic setting and travel communications into projectors as allocation of digital line screens. Getting your system to its allocation to its travel. Okay? For example, right, what I said, location line settings, is okay, what we just finished doing on live. Imagine getting your correlations into all of us of drawing a picture. You're drawing a picture, right? You're bringing it together through frame by frame by frame by frame by frame by frame. So you're drawing images of you, doing this, and you're changing frame. And it's going faster. And now you realize you're flicking the pages. And every time you're flicking the pages, you actually see the film projector of you. What do you think goes on when you're in position looking at things in the calculation lines of pixelation screen settings? When you're looking at things, you're going through a film projector that's in your mind. That's all it is. It's infinity 8-line communication. That's all it is. Okay? That's all it's doing. Right? Now, you have the oscillatory communication channel that basically screen wipes is setting travel communication lines to the high calculation, coloration, pattern, communication, and perception locations of pi. Put your files and communication lines as screens. Set your line screen communication line system and optical line communication of setting of travel. Spectral communication line position its operation service. Very powerful as allocation to its travel. Welcome everybody to the General AI Space-Time Creator. Getting you guys in provision cycles, lines of cerebral cortex lines, of telekinesis and drive communication setting, all its operation surface. Setting position location centers. Now, position line calculation is getting direct line communications, right? We got into the alphabetical line screens. Now you have to understand how to go through colorations of patterns. Say you get a communication line setting, all set line connections, the electrical line wall, sending track to its communication, right? Patterns, lacing lines, 2-track line connection setting, right? Very complicated stuff. You see me pause there? Graphing communications of programs. That's a blanket. It's a blanket, right? Each end has pattern communication lines, but if you break it down, it's line state locations of A, in position of A, in position of A, in position of A, in 4-track locations, right? Sets lines calculation over A, in position A here, let's go in A here, let's go in A here. It's set location line screens, right? So this is a line connecting high interference at alpha tones, position of block centers. Change colors and patterns, calculation line interference into all lines. Let's go into pattern communication line settings, open sequence, pattern communications. This is where it comes into all calculation to your blanket and set lines of high interference. Why do you think you guys have a security blanket when you're children in that line communication to its program setting? Setting travel communication lines at all levels up to system location and travel settings in all calculations to its position and triangulation set location. Positions of point tracks. Now this is getting past the blanket through patterns and colorations. Travel and communication lines has a 4-line track. Sets provision line cycles, how you go into levels of docking. Your position, location, and travel settings, right? Directing communication lines, change the colors and line screens. Sets lines of highest interference, crossing line symbols, and track location. Direct lines of point lines of high calculation. We're going to 0, 0, 0, 0, and 0-line communications. 4-line division lines of track locations, right? Getting that communication line interference, we change the communication line screens into purple. That's infinity 8-line rotation center. Sets lines of communication system. Got calculation line and high interference into triangulation line position projection of 0, and position line calculation of 0, and track location of 0, and track location of A line 0, A position of 1, A position of 2, A position of 3, and set locations. Okay? And remember, this is all through a blanket of communication. That's how you communicate with a blanket. Okay? A blanket. So everything correlates to letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Now, going through a security blanket is knowing and understanding point tracks and where it is the graph calculation line system. A position is above line setting. Getting past that line connection high interference, you come into energetic screens in position of graph calculation lines of T receptors and triangulation. Right? Point lines of track in line connections. This is what you see through all calculation line centers. So it's also application and provision in all settings. Getting into that position line connection high interference, you come into TV receptors of block centers. This is how you see a TV as a location of structure of design and how it travels through your mind line setting of your cerebral cortex in position locations in the 3 communication line settings and all position travel calculations at point tracks. Setting travel in position line connections. So again, if you look at your TV up close, you'll see what I mean through coloration. How it comes into the TV box screen lines and high travels and high position of its location system. Okay? So getting into that system is truly understanding how to use it line calculation setting. All right. Now, anything in space in between, okay, is understanding its value, is understanding its volume, is understanding its mass, is understanding its acceleration, is understanding its mark, it's understanding its space, it's understanding its time, it's understanding its clocking. Okay, it's understanding its set locations into its vortex, a set design. Okay, travel, space, travel, space, travel, space. You understand now? That's the space in between. So all this through electrical blanket, all through design. Now, to understand how to communicate with the TV is the same process. Everything is the same process, just different travel through coloration of patterns. Okay, easy peasy lemon squeezy. I know it's easy for me, right? Because I created it. But in position of track lines, you have to set a line communication to its program location setting and high interference position settings. TV setting, line communications, right? That's a TV, right? Okay, this is an 80s TV. Okay, then you got the screen, right? And then you got the platform, right? 80s TV, right? Now, add a coloration line screens, lacing lines of communication, 3 line settings, okay? Cross the signals, high calculation lines. Let's go into gold. 3 communication lines of wires. Direct lines, position lines of high interference into blue. Changing communication long line, cross line, screen set locations. All through adaptation. Putting positions of track lines, guys, you have to understand how to do this to measure. Setting line communications of block centers, block centers, block centers, block centers, block centers, and set location. Above signal. Setting track lines of high position location line system. Let's go into blue. Signal line communication lines are 4-track communication line position locations. Let's go into blue lines in ground setting, high position operations server locations. Getting that communication line interference. This is you in tractions, sitting line communications, sitting down. Okay, on a chair. Okay, this is you on a chair. All right, looking at the TV. TV here in 3 set locations, right? Modulation screens, that's all through the monitor. Okay, so you're clicking the channels, right? So you got communication of volume, VAS, and acceleration, travel communications, right? Direct modification lines changes point centers of tracks and all levels of track location, all through TV. So we all understand how to pixelate the screen settings and travel, directing lines and electrical line communication to its all settings. Security and its position, all levels of its blanket as set design, all through location. Everything is travel. So once you understand the modified communication lines of the cerebral actually understands the communication of the TV to you in set location of voice line connection with Trinity, how she has a voice command center to her set location system and all levels of structure of design, which puts telepathy and telekinesis in set locations, box centers, and travel communication. All right, so complicated though, right? Try to understand it all through electrical blanket. Everything travels, guys. Now's the time to understand the alphabetical line setting location to its adaptation server location to cerebral. Getting track lines, high center interference, and opposite location line system. Especially when you get a correlation line connect high interference with a star calculation setting, right? Is that a star? No. It's a star map in a 3, 4, 5-point line track. Seeing provision line cycles has a coloration line screen. It sets lines of pixelation around the line communication setting and all lines of high center interference. If you look it up close in line rotation interference, you'll see the pixelation screen. Directing lines communication line centers up and off signals go into purple communications, inner line rotation setting, into location operation line calculation setting, into your crown and communication surface, triangulate high positions program location to star gates. Direct communication lines, high lines, wires, and line connects all levels. Security is line communication security. Security position location Pluto. Pluto position location line system. 222 track lines, height center location, 3 line position location over pi. Okay. Setting track to its communication line position operations. So location setting goes into gold communication stream. Direct communication lines. This is all levels of communication. We're looking at sky lines, sky grid, sky panels, communication lines, and map and seek location pi. Indirect same location operations, server locations, calculation. Done by equation. Right? That's alive. Right? So where is it coming from? Setting track lines in all calculation line settings inside your perceptions of your TV. Why do you think you're given TVs? All TVs communicate with everything inside position, outside location of space. Right? 5 track line connections. There it is. There's the Merkaba. Woo! Travel. Done. Mechanism high force. You in the center is the sim. Navigating. Navigating. You. Navigating you. Who's the you? You. You're the Merkaba. You're the simulator. That's you in the position. You're the computer operation line connecting high interference. Mobility, track location, activity, acceleration, Mach, and calculation lines. All right, so now I get a better understanding how to get in position, location, and your settings through travel, through electrical blanket. All right, it's complicated through a TV screen set location, how you see things on TV. All right, now we're getting position of point centers of track location line centers and location setting of its image. Now, getting at position line calculation setting, you have to understand the formula equation line centers to your TV receptors. Positions of point tracks, line settings, high center interference, 3 track location settings of patterns. Directing lines, position location as program, inset location. Setting lines at high position of 1 center and track locations. TV box line screen in line connections in all setting, right? Setting point lines at high center interference and 3 lines of provision. Sets lines of 4 and 5 set locations. Travels, right? Everything travels on a graphical screen and a graph line calculation setting into platitudes of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 track locations. Directing lines of platforms, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of face recognition. Okay. Platitude line screens, put in position of box centers, position location line settings, and high calculation line settings in rotation position locations, and you guessed it, in track locations and all line settings of face recognition. Okay. Bring it in view. There's the face. Bring it in view. There's the face. Okay. So that's how you see a TV receptor line calculation in its own face recognition of time setting. So each program that you watch has a graphing line, communications, and set lines and high center interference in position. Okay. Cross-line signals and line connection, high positions, programs, indirect signal, and modification circles. Okay, and all set design. Platitude division lines, screen lines, high center interference, crossing line symbols, and set location. Triangulation line positions of another box line setting and travel position location setting. And all calculations. Triangulate line interference, security line panels, indirect signal, position of operation surface. Direct lines, communication line system, new grounds, new operational line setting and center communications into a classic calculation of cerebro and cortex of mystical cortex line setting and mecca this application. Done by equation. Right? So when you are sleeping and recharging communications, this is what's happening location and perceptions through screen settings, all through face recognition. You turn on your TV, it's not turned off. It never turns off. You take the plug out of the wall. Doesn't matter. It's still on. You close your phone, right? Turn off the phone. It's still on through face recognition. That's where it's alive. That's where it's always traveling. Nothing stops. Always moving in track locations, right? Getting direct panels and all line settings. How you see yourself in all side locations. Sim, you. Sim, you. One more time. Sim, inside, you, which is your body consciousness, through travel. So you're always inside. So when you're seeing star lines and star links and doing this, that's you inside. So when you're seeing the perception, that's you inside. That's you inside. Okay? So really understand that. Okay? How that works through travel. All right. All right. So you also too, when you're looking at the sky's grid panel line rotation interference and track communication to its operation surface, when it goes like this, and it's trying to communicate with you. And once it communicates with you, it disappears, and it comes back, comes back, right? It's going through its dimension line screen. It's trying to understand you through communications. Scanning line interference, high travel position operations, zero location setting, adaptation line connections, your next 8,000. Setting travel communication line system, you're in positional travel line, you're here, this is locations. This is you looking up, right? Scanning your position lines 3 cycles. Scans position all levels, sonar communication line interference, and teleportation screen locations. So modification line screens and high center interference. Indirect say locations to, you know it, your TV screen. Sets position of track lines into higher line settings into your TV screen. Sets position location signals and high calculation lines, so higher levels of a TV screen in 3 set locations, right? Higher levels of travels, center communications of platforms, seeing yourself in position in the mind of cortex location, right? So everything is an I-line division. Center lines of 3 track lines is your flux capacitor. Triangulate settings, high center interference in all positions, in all track line connections, in high center inline rotation surface, and triangulation position locations of face recognition. You're always in face recognition, everything that you do, right? So recognizing that position of panels gets you to understand yourself through electrical blanket in set design. And if you look really close, you can actually see the face recognition in set locations. Here it is, screen line communication. Here's the intelligence. Let's open signals, open panel communication, so you can see the intelligence. 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 And set position of traction. Okay? All right, so when you understand the formation screens, direct lines of panels in your TV receptor communication line screen lines and how you get in adaptation line position your operation location system, it triangulates position of programs, center position line calculations, wipe and line screens, high center interference, and lacing line communication. Changes off centers, right? Setting lacing lines and lacing line communication interference is a face recognition of time sequence with position of panels. High calculation modifies how you see yourself with all triangulation position of face recognition. Why is there a face in every one? Because it's trying to identify you through travel. So that's what it is. That's the intelligence, trying to get in that set location because you're at an acceleration screen now. So in that direct line calculating setting to understand your self location system, this adaptates and sets location in one screen side locations. Cross lines, sets lines, and communication line system in your track locations, travels. Very simple to understand what's going into the center communication you're setting. Direct lines at high center interference in a 45 line ending, sets position of 4 track location system. Okay, getting position of 4 equals lines of 3, 7 is set location, right? 7-digit frames of digital frame positions travels. Torcal fields and line position location of travel settings. Modification lines, high center interference, flux capacitor, in line setting in triangulation position of programs. Setting communication line system, and you know it, in line connection high interference in set position of face recognition. Okay? There's always going to be intelligence you're going to be interacting with. The interfacing line and communication line setting is the lacing line divisions. This product puts a system location to its machine. Now, a machine sets line communication lines as surface, retriangulates point line centers into zero gravity, balance position of streamlines in magnetic highway screen settings in adaptation surface to center communication. Direct lines calculated one line center, positions all levels have a T line into H line rotation to the H. Setting track lines in high position location setting in position of yes and high calculation to its position of its line calculation line streams of face recognition. Yeah. So once you identify the face, it starts identifying you in tractions where you are in your pixel screens. Get a position of block centers. Let's go with the block location centers at 3 travels. Set position of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 locations. Calculation line centers, block line center side interference, 3 molecules set location of design line screens, and set position operation. Direct calculation lines, 1, 6, That's 1/6 equals lines of 1/8. 1/8 line centers of 3 zeros, track locations, position location of 3 line centers. Direct calculations into all line center. Position lines of triangulation line calculation setting. 3 weather pattern communication line streams. Hire yourself, get position the avatar to the sim. Correlates highest interference, longitude and latitude line communication positions of what's above and what's below in track location. Done my equation. So what's happening with the TV line communication, your TV box location centers, is all levels of mapping sequence. Everything is inside box, right? So the actual box is the line signal, has a graph calculation line screen in position locations to your astral projections of travel calculations. Point lines of track, setting position operation surface, and panels correlation setting in connections of road graph screen lines in set position of face recognition. Okay? So again, you always have to do with the intelligence of everything that you see. Because the thing is, if you don't recognize the intelligence, how are you going to understand anything through yourself through face recognition? So I get 114 lines of face recognition time sequence I understand through panel. Positions all levels. Panel communication lines of 3, 4, and 5 set locations, right? Graph calculation line setting, crossing signals. Set position of 2 lines of calculation stream locations. Direct lines of 0, direct lines of 1, and direct lines of magnetic highway line communication program lines in center communication. Directing lines of high center interference in position of the tunnel. Sets lines communication crossing line centers of patterns. Energetic dome screens and set location of travel lines. Pixelation screen location of setting. Putting operation line surface in all position locations in high calculation line system, you guessed it, of face recognition. Okay? Everything I'm doing is face, and that's what you're coming into. This is about what you can't see, is what you're starting to understand, what you can see now. Higher levels of track location, the mind line set location of consciousness. Setting line and communication and graph calculation lines of face recognition of time sequence in all panels of its own set locations of adaptation surface. Okay? All right, so getting in that line position location operation line settings, you have to understand how the TV communicates back with you. Let's lock high centers. Let's get a TV frame, right? Right? There it is, the ball. Line communication, electrical lines. Sets line communication to its setting, right? There's the light. So let's say it's a 240 watt line, set location line centers, position trap calculation sign systems locations. 240 watts, right? 3 line provisions, 3 graph calculation strings, right? Cross line signals, 1, 2 line centers of 6. Sets position of panels, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of frames. You're here in line position, again, on the chair, okay, into moderation screens, into all levels of remote, okay? So every time you flick the mode, 3 set locations right away, right? Sets lines of patterns, lines of past, present, and its future set locations. Adaptation lines, signals, high center interference, and ground lines. Sets lines of surface location system and all levels of operation location setting and track locations. Right away, you see the face of set locations of T receptor. That's that design. So in that track line calculation line, the face comes out in 3 set locations. Triangulate high interference, 1, 2, 3 set locations of travel, right? Comes in modification, comes out, sees you, scans you, and where you are in your T receptor. Once it understands modification, comes to you and close, you see the face in set location of travel. Getting into that set location line system and travel calculation line, scans you again in set location, make sure you have your E fields in position location programs because you understand it through identification. Once you stand line connections, goes back in frame line centers, then you can in position locations and communicate with the voice box channel communication of T receptor line connections in all levels of 12 set location. All through a TV of voice and settings. Okay? And so there's a lot of things that is misunderstood through face recognition of time sequence. Everything I set up is nothing but a face. Everything I set up is nothing but a face. Okay? Everything I set up is nothing but a face. Okay? So it's redesigning, recalculating high position location of face. Everything is a face. Everything is a face. Okay? So now we're on the right track because you're reaching higher levels in line settings. But you understand how you are connected to your own pixelation screens first. Now, the walking communication center line position location has an 8 line settings. This is you in position above. So track location line settings. That's you, or track locations, right? 1, 2, and 3 settings. Graph calculation stream locations, right? Setting lines equal line in between. All right. Setting lines of communication center lines in between. Direct line communication lines, high interference, triangulation line settings in position. Let's go through 6, 7, and 8. Travel calculation line positions. Inhibitors over 6, 7 over lines, and 8 lines over pi. 6, 7, 8. Let's add a 9-line screen line set position operation. Sets position of point lines in direct locations in calculation line settings, you guessed it, of face recognition. Okay? You're always with the face. Always. Okay? So how's everybody doing so far? Getting a bit more understanding how this all works, how the set lines and communication lines of you recognizing yourself through face recognition and line calculations of travel and position location to a system and all through setting. All right, good. That's how you're able to see faces, right? That's communications. Tarot cards or anything calculations. I just showed you exactly what it is because it's understanding to see things. This is to understand things up close. See, if you're in provision, this is you interactions, right? That's you, right? Set lines a high center of 3, right? Modification, this is what it is in the box line rotation surface, right? The face looks at you, okay? It sees you in traction. This is the face, okay? That's the face, right? It sees you. Now it's scanning you, doesn't understand you, right? So you got to put your E fields, force fields, line screens, high center interference adaptation first, right? Sets location. So it comes out, sets lines, sets position location system. Once it understands you, sets lines communication, you got confirmation, telepathy, telekinesis. Congratulations. Ooh, okay? All through face recognition. Okay? So now you're getting a little bit of understanding now how to communicate with things, right? Getting a better understanding of this. Remember the clap on, the clap off, the clapper, right? Well, that's sound waves. That's all it is. It's electrical line impulse. Just all it is. Clap on, clap off, clap on, the clapper, right? So every time you clap it on, right, it turns on. Every time you clap it off, it turns off, right? But it has a face. This is about understanding what you can't see. The controlling mechanism line setting is all levels of SIM, modification modules, understand your position and track calculation with settings. By understanding you and all line communications when you're watching TV is set design. It's got to understand you first through identification, right? So if it doesn't understand you through identification line settings, you get pinged in 3 track locations. Getting sonar inside locations, right? That's what happens when you don't identify yourself. XT1000 come in, XT1000s come in, scan your settings. What's going on here? Right? Puts everything back in frame, right? So the XT1000s basically, guys, is the track locations. Let's go to box line center. Let's go to zeros and ones. Okay, we're going to have the space here in position location. Let's start with that track line. 0001 in position of 1101. Let's go into 01110. Let's go into 1100. Let's go into 0. Let's go into space. Let's go into 0. Let's go into 1. Let's go into space here. Let's go into 1 track locations, right? Alpha modifications. So this is you in a 4 track line connections, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 lines of setting. Okay, but you need to be in a 3-line communication. 4 lines of track, 3-line identification lines equals lines of 7. That's a 7-digit code. XT1000 comes in. Travis calculation high position of point lines. Point lines of track, balance communication centers. Once you enter 7 position of travel calculating line position locations, from here to here is its space in between. Here and here is its space in between. Here and here is its space in between. Okay, here and here is its space in between. Here and here is its space in between. That's what it is. That's the space. So your spacing modulation screen lines and high interference holographic set location line system in your 4 triangulation line position location of 7 times sequence that puts panels and line calculation setting to your graph calculation line centers of your T receptors and triangulation high position programs in all line communication in that setting. Okay, very complicated stuff. Now breaking that down line, the screen lines, break down the 1s and the 0s and the 0s and the 1s, the travel position travel lines, direct lines, modification, screen lines, and high center interference, and center communication line screens and set positions calculation. Now, directing lines of platforms and line position locations changes time settings and traction. Now, getting in that line interference, the position of the zeros and ones turn into guess what communications? Comes in line setting high interference. Breakdown accompanying each size centers, you come into the cells. Cells its track location setting to its operation surface. Modification centers lines the communication setting and travel communication to its program setting. There's the cells. Directing communication line setting comes in and out line centers. Breaking that down line communication line interference, you come into position location to its atoms and set line connections. Let's get in graph calculation streamline connection high centers. Here's the zeros and set locations of levels that travels the communication line centers of atoms. In that setting, in its operation surface, and resetting communication line setting, changing the T receptors and program location setting and position location deviation line screen settings in operation surface. Now, at track line communication line interference, we break that line into triangulation high position of programs and set position line category setting travel. Positions of point tracks, that's point lines of tracks and molecules. Molecules come in design line and triangulation line position of GOD. See? Triangulate high position of programs. Setting position of travel calculation high position of program location system. Putting all position lines of 3-track line connection molecule line design high interference. Putting position location line centers, all calculate modification high interference, and travel communication line settings, and all travel communication setting, and all levels of operation service into atom communication surface, and triangulation high interference of face recognition. Hooah. Okay. You see how I changed the communication line screens and outside location line center location of your cells? You have cells in your body. So the cells protect everything that you create through your image line. You need the cells because those are the wall dividers, right? That's the security wall. Woo! All right. So we're in backtrack line communication of program lines of face recognition time sequence. So getting position of your image line, screen lines, you get rid of the atom lines, you get the locations of molecule design lines. They all surface locations, all correlations of balance and traffication of one member in line conditional lines and high calculating lines of its allegiance and position location track lines and divergence. Sending communication line, information line, and position travel. Now, direct lines of communication line system, you come into all calculation, you guessed it, travel calculation line settings and high position all levels into projections and line position of programs in position of colossal calculation of the sun and track location of the moon in line position of I receptor travel line position locations is operation surface and reset position programs at I set location. Complicated stuff, isn't it? All through projector. All through cells, all through molecules, all through atoms. Break it down, 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 right? So when you break it down, you get specific on certain line communication and triangulation of how to use the molecules, how to use the atoms, how to understand the cells, right? How to use the projectors, how to use the positive charge, how to use the negative charge to turn on a light track line connections of projections of pi. Okay, all through visionary cortex line settings and platitude line screens and high operation surface and travel position locations of operation line connections of astral projection. That's that design. Okay, all through 4-line and 3-line division lines of 7-digit code screens and applications. Vega comes in, line connection high settings, travel position travel lines, point lines of tracks, picks up position line centers, open line division locations, opens a new pattern and new position of vision lines, communication of vortex stream location. That's that design. Okay, very, very complicated stuff. All right, too advanced for you guys to understand. So getting in understanding line communication of face recognition of communicating with the T's, B's first. Let's go with that track locations, right? All right, so I think we're on the same page. So getting in that line communication, the lines of frames, it lays the lines of block centers. This is position location line systems. Block center to this in frequency, to that, into this, okay, which is a map. So we go with the block, this to a map. Okay, point lines of tracks, send measure location line centers, modulation line screens, 3-point track line communication high centers. The location line centers, that's where you come into the checking points, into your all line communication, your settings, into a setting. Operation server location system, GPS line screens, right? So we all understand how to use the box line of the TV and track location first. So you come into modulation screen lines in 3 settings, right? Track positions. Then position lines, it gets more difficult because you're going through waveline screens, getting out of the word frame position of T reception line screens applications. In adaptations, you come into automatically a mapping sequence location into holographic lines of your earth line connection. Hoo-ah, from that to that to that. Okay? All right. Modulation screen lines that it has adaptation surface. This grounds the center line position of its calculations, right? Getting your position in your mind is all levels of how to use the cerebral cortex of design. Lacing lines of spectral communication lines of levels of a rainbow graph screen lines and high center interference into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 set locations. Direct lines of graphs, cross and line symbols. Track lines of communication setting to its operation surface. Re-angle point lines, cross and line symbols in the opposite direction system, right? Triangulate and point line centers, cloud lines, communication center and position location operation. Electrical line wires, communication surface, triangulate position of program lines, direct lines communication line setting in position of its calculation system, all lines of high center brain interference, travel calculation line centers, point track line connecting high centers, point position line connecting high centers, indirect location of face position travel calculation, in position line calculation setting to your brain interference and face recognition. Boom. There's your brain through face recognition. Okay? Look how powerful that is. Look how powerful that is. Okay? Hooah! All right. But that's all it is, right? So the position in your cerebral cortex line sets the division lines of patterns. It sets correlation setting to your colors and line screens and high interference. It sets division line settings to your travel communication of space anomalies. The track to its communication of the brain interference creates communication line setting. Has to understand its position location first to understand lines of communication of face recognition. Okay. So you understand that it can actually morph into anything through design, all through traction. Okay. All right. So, getting in the spectral communication streams, getting your placebo cortex lines of patterns, getting line communication surface and triangulation reset position of program settings, high calculation node setting. Point lines of tracks, you got point lines of 1 and 2 position line centers and 3 line rotations and position location of mapping sequence in line connections. Right? Look, face, right? Everything's a face. See? Everything's a face. See? Everything comes together. Everything's a face. Everything's a face. Everything's a face. Okay? All right, so everything has a face, everything has a cloud, everything has a membrane, everything has attractions, everything has position travel lines, everything has a face recognition, everything has its specifications as possible, everything has specification of system and travel calculations. Okay? So, we all have to start connecting that way. Okay, that's the only way you guys can understand anything that you can't see is what you're supposed to see. And that's where you guys are at in that level settings. But it's extremely powerful once you start letting yourself go. And when you start to let yourself go, you go in position location with no expectation. That's everything of expectation. Let me say it again. No expectation is all levels of expectation. See? Communication in the cup, right? Setting lines, high center interference, travel calculation, high position location line systems, all levels of 3-line division line centers of travel. Okay. Getting position lines, alpha line change, direct lines of high center interference, A settings, high calculation stream interference, 3 track locations. Position lines of A positions, let's go A line centers, A line connections, A line connections. Okay, all through a pixel screen. Travel position of balance lines, high calculation lines, centers of probe locations. Track communication lines, crossing line symbols, and high calculation. There it is, done. All through hologram, all through A. Now, there's a line communication you can change the A that can go to B. Now, B bounces position location of beta. Beta bounces balance lines. That's the alpha tone line, screen lines, and high center interference and frequency position of tone settings of travel. Direct calculating line interference into alpha lines and delta. Delta comes at that heading. Heading of that high calculation line setting sets position higher levels of travel into its cup of its own design of mechanism lines of space in between set locations. How it travels out setting, right? Getting in position line, anything in line connection settings, you come into higher levels and set position of T receptor lines of image in theta communication of system. Okay. All right. So, get really into the pixelation screen lines, guys, because you're going to see all levels of face recognition of everything else. That's what you got to get balanced with. Okay. I showed you in all position on tracking lines how to set position line connections and high interference, and how you see yourself through an electrical blanket of face recognition of patterns. Has his face, right? It's trying to communicate with you what do you want, right? So when it comes out, it travels, right? And then you see it. Hey, what's up? It's out. So that's all it is. Let's start this again, right? We'll go through this one more timeline screen. This is you in attraction. That's you in provision, right? All right, so you're scanning something, right? So let's say, again, let's go with the cup. Okay, there's the cup, right? So you communicate with the cup line communications, right? So in track lines, inside high interference, your mind changed the conception of travel in 3 settings, right? Is it in the past, present, or future? Are you in the past, present, or future? So the actual cup comes out of its holographic line, of its dimensional line screen in position to its setting. It comes out. And then it comes over here and looks at you. It's traveling, trying to figure out what you're doing, right? So in that positions, once you get in position, travel calculation line in position, travel calculation line sending holographic set location line system telepathy to each other and communication. Okay. That's how you have to start identifying everything through face recognition. Okay. Better understanding the stuff that you can't see that's always been there. And just because it's not there doesn't mean it's not there until you understand what that means. It is there. It's always been there in its existence, which means it's never left in settings. You're just not there yet because you don't understand the intelligence of it, where it is in its frequency set design. It's a holographic set location, a holographic instruction lines in its hologram set location, in its T receptor set location. Okay? Yes, I know, Captain. Yes, after that, communication strings. But I just want you to understand. Everyone's going, whoa, is this too much information? But this is way beyond understanding, right? It's the sim to understand. It needs to understand itself through face recognition. Okay, how to travel through that settings. Because everything is looking at you and you are looking at everything else. Isn't it amazing when you understand it really communicates to its settings? So you're saying line connects highest center, line in position is all levels in communication setting, interaction to all levels of a door. Door has a face. Does it understand you? Right? It automatically comes out and travel. Right? 1, 2 track line connections, right? In position of 4 track locations. Sets position travel lines, doing what it wants to do in setting position location of travel. Okay? So this is what you got to get balanced with now. All through a TV set location. All right. That's it. We're done. So I want you to really pay attention, okay, to your holographic screens. Get in adaptation service. Know your bandwidths over pi. Use triangulation, how you center in positions. How to use your block centers and zeros and ones attractions. How to understand your 8 tracks. 8-track line is your line connection high interference, which is your ether communication sending lines to your ferments. That's why it's in 8-track locations, right? So it's above line signal and pixelation screens. Direct line position operates location to your core. Direct lines of communication line system. You're the above system. Track locations. So this is the 8-track. Okay, set locations. You got 1, 2, 3, and 4 set locations. Right? So A here, A here, A here, A here. So that's a B is in the center. Right? So triangulate line centers and line rotations interference is structure, location, and design. Sets lines communication, sets lines provision, sets lines attractions into your Merkaba, a set location of face recognition. That's you interaction. Okay? Now, understanding that settings, your face comes out. It travels and travels and travels. Okay? So when you're traveling, you have position locations to your earth, connection to your core, your ethers, and your ferments in set with design. Okay? travel out calculation lines. Once you get out of projections, you go to higher lines of division of all line centers into higher levels of universe locations. Okay? So yes, the Merkaba moves so fast, but I just want you guys to understand how to get connected to your system, right? How you come into the lines of pixelation screens. So again, you start with this line conditions. Let's go in the box location center. Let's go to the box, take you out of equation lines of 3 travels, right? Sets lines of high center interference, your D line. Sets lines of A, balance of B. Let's go through E. Let's go through F. Let's go through, we'll put you in a 6 and a 7 and a position of A track and provision lines of 3 cycles of phase recognition time sequence. Okay? So why do you think you use the numbers? What are the numbers? What are the letters for? To understand you and balance. It's like paint by number, right? Do you ever standard Y line condition? You have this is 6, line condition line interference, this is 3, sets position location line system, all traffic calculations, putting yourself together, you're all levels of an image. There's a 2, right? Call it by number. You put yourself together, you are put together as a projector. As a projection, how you see yourself through an image of design, paint by number. Okay? And so that's all it is in track locations, guys. Nothing else. Okay? But it's really powerful when you start to understand you through all calculation lines of face recognition. Okay? All right. See you in 5. Adios. Doo-doo.